Good morning, and thank you for attending the Change of Command ceremony for the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group. Today, we will bid farewell to Colonel Thomas T. Bodnar and welcome a new leader, Colonel Tharommony T. in. Our ceremony today is a celebration of both continuity and change. Continuity in the form of a military tradition whose roots reach back through the time to the legions of ancient Rome, to the passing of signets that once symbolized the transfer of command from one to another. Continuity and change, as his great command says farewell to an honored leader and welcomes his successor through a ceremony that differs only in style, not substance, from those of the Romans. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is the Commander, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Colonel Sean C.G. Kern. Please stand for the arrival of official party and remain standing for the national anthem and invocation.
Sir, I present the command.
Proceed with the ceremony. Host the colors. Ho! Finish. Ho! Forward. Ho! Forward. Ho! 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 Present! Ho!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Forward. Ho!
Thank you, Airman First Class Hawk.
Ready?
Chaplain Lieutenant Colonel David McGuire, please offer the invocation.
As you are able this morning, I invite you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, I pray this morning for the men and women of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group. Unite them as one in a spirit of service and fellowship. Stand with them in their good work. Encourage them and grant them safety in their mission of service to their fellow airmen. Give them strength for the labors and wisdom equal to every task. As we pass the colors in this morning's important ceremony, I especially lift up the two commanders, one outgoing, one incoming. Go with our friends, Colonel Thomas Bodnar and his wife Lisa, as they reset their family's clock to move into a new time of life. Let their future service be a blessing to them in every way. As a team, they have supported the processes of turning airmen into cyberspace warriors who are needed for America's 21st century engagements. Loving God, it is assured that the Bodnar family will become your blessing to those they meet. We thank you for allowing them to have passed our way. And be with Colonel Tharommony T as she assumes command of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group. Provide her with every grace of leadership that you know she will need. Grant this new gunslinger happiness and contentment as she meets new challenges in a new command. Empower Colonel N and the men and women of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group with the qualities for success in every good endeavor, so that their many missions might be accomplished and every member of the team might find satisfaction in the wide and varied assignments they are doing on behalf of all who are served. I lift these requests and blessings to you, praying in your holy and sacred name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We are honored to introduce the family members in attendance today, as well as those viewing virtually. Please hold all applause until all names are called. The spouse of the outgoing commander, Mrs. Lisa Bodnar, and their children, Emily, Caroline, and John Bodnar, and Emily's fiance, Rob Keene. The parents of the incoming commander, Mr. Bunta and Mrs. Sarom In, and her sisters, Sokvakte, Chanpakde, and her brother, Sanirade In. The nieces and nephews of the incoming commander, Jasmine, Sunisa, Keja, Tay, and Aiden. And the relatives of the incoming commander, Mr. Sokan, Saribat, and Sovan Kiri Hul. Distinguished guests attending today are the Mobilization Assistant to the Commanding General, U.S. Army Cyber Command, Brigadier General Christine Rummel. Former Commander, 67th Network Warfare Wing, Brigadier General retired Kevin Wooten and his spouse Sheila. The spouse of the Commander, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Mrs. Angie Kern. The Vice Commander, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Colonel Michael Winter. Representing the Command Chief, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Chief Master Sergeant Eric Van Holt. The Commander, 37th Training Wing, Colonel Lauren Corshain. The Commander, 567th Cyberspace Operations Group, Colonel Nelson Aviles Figueroa. The spouse of the Commander, 67th Cyberspace Operations Group, Mrs. Michelle Picklesheimer, and their children, Gavin, Bridget, and Henry. The Commander, 26th Cyberspace Operations Group, Colonel Randolph Witt. The Senior Advisor, 318th Cyberspace Operations Group, Mr. Robert Kaufman. The Deputy Director, 318th Cyberspace Operations Group, Mr. Jim Hurd. And Chief of Staff, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Mr. William Edgar. A special welcome is also extended to all senior leaders, friends, colleagues, and especially the members of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group. Thank you for joining us today for this momentous occasion. It is my pleasure to introduce the Commander, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Colonel Sean C.G. Kern.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Airman Hawk, for that. Look, I'm not gonna lie, it took all my military discipline not to look over and watch you sing.
because I'm like, is this a recording? What's going on right now? Am I being punked? That was absolutely exceptional. I really appreciate you. That was just stellar. Absolutely stellar. Yeah. And Chaplain McGuire, as always, thanks for your great invocation. I had an old boss who used to say, you got to have the God Squad at every event. So we got our God Squad right here, which is pretty awesome. So I'd like to send a warm welcome to our distinguished visitors, General Rummel and General Wooten. It's terrific to see you. Always supporting our 67th Cyberspace Wing. Absolutely terrific. Great to see you. I look forward to seeing you later this afternoon as well at another event that'll be coming up. And so I'd also like to welcome, of course, commanders. Lauren, it's terrific to see you yet again at another wing. That's terrific that your schedule works out that way. Our vice, terrific staff, just super terrific leaders in the 318th COG. And our 318th COG airmen, looking super sharp today. Could you put the formation at ease, please, John? So just thank you all for investing your time today to make this a very special day as we pay tribute to a command tour ended and look forward to a promising command tour to begin. And to the families of Colonel Bodnar and Colonel N, your presence here today elevates what would be an everyday ceremony. It really does. It defines a moment that captures us at our very best, and it gives us another opportunity where we can connect more deeply with each other as we come together to celebrate the accomplishments of your family members, Tom Bodnar and Tharommony T. We know the support of the terrific leaders over the course of their career is the reason that we're actually able to come here today and celebrate this special moment in time. And to the airmen of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group, the Black Widows, it's a time of transition for you, right? As you say goodbye to one commander and you gain another. But it's a time to reflect on your accomplishments, of the bonds you've grown over the course of the command tour for Colonel Bodnar, and to project forward into the future about all the amazing accomplishments the Black Widows are going to do under the tutelage and leadership of Colonel N. So I'd like to start by recognizing Tom as he completes this extremely successful command. And I won't list all the accomplishments that the 318th has done over the course of the last 2 years. I suspect those could show up in his comments. They will certainly show up in his citation that will come later in the day. But I feel like I need to provide context of how I know Tom as a person, as an officer, and as a cyber leader in our Air Force, and how we've come to know each other as we worked alongside each other over the last few years. But I actually have to go back a ways. I have to go back to when Tom was at Air Combat Command, and he was responsible for our cyber weapon systems. And he was responsible for the transition of lead MAGCOM responsibility for cyberspace operations from Air Force Space Command to Air Combat Command, which was a daunting task. And I don't know how anybody else saw that transition occur, but from my perch, it seemed like Tom in many ways was the architect of many of the key functions that made that a successful transition. So he had to work day to day with Headquarters Air Force, Air Combat Command, 2 cyber wings, a NAF, and the program management offices. But what a lot of people didn't see was he also had to build a future vision for what those cyber weapon systems should be in 5 years from now, defining requirements and investments that would increase the lethality of our cyber force. Now you may wonder, why does this matter today, his time at ACC, on July 18th, 2023, as he's leaving command? Well, it's because at ACC senior leaders saw the value of the passion that Tom brought to the mission, his ability to go strat to tactical in the same sentence, and the ability to bridge this precarious divide between an idea and actual execution. Tom does what he says he's going to do. And we knew we needed that in the 318th COG, and so frankly, I'm sure for those senior leaders at ACC, it was an easy decision to bring you into command. Now, the 318th COG, like every other group in the 67th Cyber Wing, is singularly unique. No other group in the United States Air Force does what the 318th COG does. We train our cyber operators. We do exquisite capability development. We do operational tests on that capability to make sure that it's what we need when we go into mission execution. We throw those capabilities into ranges so we can build the TTPs, so we can do mission rehearsal, we could do advanced training, and we can do exercise support to ensure that our force is ready for mission. And we deliver those capabilities directly to the operator. No one else in the United States Air Force does that. Oftentimes, we embed our capability delivery with mission, on mission, so that in those very rare instances where it doesn't work the way we anticipated, almost in real time, we are making changes to make sure that that mission succeeds. And we're there at the debrief with those operators to ensure we fully understand their requirements so we can feed that forward into the next lethal thing we're going to develop and deliver. That's the level of deep integration that Tom and the 318th COG has delivered in the last 2 years. So fast forward to 2022, as I'm getting ready to come into the 67th Wing and serve with Tom, months out from my arrival, no joke, Lisa's already starting to laugh a little. Months out, I start getting emails from Tom. You know, hey Sean, FYI, no action needed. Have some thoughts, I have some concepts, I have some ideas about all things cyberspace operations. That's kind of, typical Tom. He's thinking forward, he's setting conditions, he's influencing future thought. And oh, by the way, he's setting up a teammate to be successful because he cares about the mission and he cares about the people. And he doesn't stop. Even leading up to today, I bet you he sent an email out to someone this morning. I'm just saying. And T, I bet you there could be some ghost emails lined up for you saying, hey, I would recommend that you send this out to these people for these reasons. He was having meetings and making recommendations with higher headquarters last week. I mean, at one point I told him, if it just an outside observer was looking in and wondering about, Tom's career and his future, it definitely wouldn't have looked like you were retiring next week, for sure. So here's where Tom's talents and leadership really shine. You have a relentless operational focus. It is all about operations, increasing combat effectiveness and lethality of our force. Tom knew that strengthening the integration of development, test, range, and exercise support was vital in delivering operationally relevant capability and operationally relevant timelines. And in just one example, 72% of all cyber capabilities executed in the last 12 months came from the 318th COG, far exceeding any other capability delivery. I mean, orders of magnitude different. That is the strength and the value of the 318th COG and what Tom has architected and engineered with his leaders in the 318th. Now, I mentioned how much Tom has shaped and influenced cyberspace operations, the United States Air Force, and there's still one area, though, that we tend to struggle with, and that's how do you right-size the enabling forces so that we can be more lethal and more effective. So he is central to those resourcing and capacity. I had to get capacity in there in my comments. The resourcing and capacity discussions that we need so that the 318th is more a readiness group than it is an operations group. We know that. That you need to be optimally organized and resourced because we face increasing risks in cyberspace operations, in competition, crisis, and conflict. Absent the 318th, there is no cyberspace operations. There are no cyberspace operations. Tom, thank you for being the leader we needed, a staunch supporter for the very foundational functions we need to be an effective force, day in and day out and into the future. Thank you for your relentless operational focus. I chose those words specifically, relentless operational focus, and your keen abilities to connect vision with action. And if I'm gonna be really honest with all of you, that's actually kind of a rarer trait than it should be in our Air Force. Like they say, ideas are easy, but execution is hard. And you deliver, and your airmen deliver. Black Widows, you might be losing a great commander, but of course, in typical Air Force tradition, you are gaining a terrific commander, and Colonel N. T, I'm excited that we're going to finally get a chance to work together. I've known about you since you were on the assignment team in 2010, not because you're on the assignment team, serving all of us, because you worked with a really close friend, Sam Ray, and she could not talk enough about what a terrific leader of character and integrity that you are, and your passion for what we do. So I'm excited to work with you in the next year and what we can learn together and how we can lead our wing and our groups to deliver better effects for our nation. She's a 2-time squadron commander, an individual and unit level award winner. Most recently, Director of Communications at Special Operations Command, Africa. What does that mean? T gets operations. T gets operations. She understands the stressors, the unpredictable nature of the application of unique and specialized expertise in difficult and challenging environments. Kind of sort of sounds like maybe what we do. She told me that she likes to stay in the gray, to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Good. We need that. We need that. See, there are 800 airmen in the 318th Cyberspace Operations Readiness Group that need your leadership and vision, and the entirety of the Air Force Cyber Mission Force looks to you and your airmen to deliver capabilities today and into the future, to prepare them to execute cyberspace operations in the defense of our nation. And I know that sounds like a weighty responsibility, but there's a reason you're sitting in that chair about ready to take command, because we believe you absolutely are the leader to take us into the next generation. So welcome to the family. So without that further ado, let's press forward with the change of command. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Kern. It is my pleasure to introduce the Commander, 318th Cyberspace Operations Group, Colonel Thomas T. Bodnar.
So good morning, good morning. So I have to be a little bit different. I can't use a podium because as many of you know me, I like to move around a little bit and like to talk and address the crowd. This is my full speech. I had to write down names so I don't forget, because usually I have my speech memorized, but I want to make sure I didn't forget to recognize any of the special people who helped me get here today. So first, I'd like to thank some of our DVs, General Rummel, sir, ma'am, thanks for coming out today. I greatly appreciate your time being here today. Mike, Lauren, Chief, GS-45, Chaplain. If you haven't heard that joke, we'll talk about it some other time over a beer. Chaplain, thank you very much for helping us bring God into part of this. I appreciate that. Airman Hawk, man, that was beautiful. I've heard you sing several times. I very much appreciate the time that you took to come out today and help celebrate the Black Widows and things that we've done here. To my wife, Lisa, and my family, thank you so much for coming out today. You've meant so much to me, and you really helped bring a little bit of our family into the group. If you don't know this, Lisa crocheted, am I saying the right word? Okay. Crocheted little mascots from a bunch of the squadrons and gave them out there. And so that's part of the things that we did as a family to help bring and inspire all the people. Although he couldn't make it today, I'd really like to thank Brigadier General Select Phillips for entrusting the 318th group to me, and then Boss for allowing me to continue to serve for the last year. I really appreciate your support, your guidance, and really your passion, right? Because anyone knows Colonel Kern, he brings a lot of oomph, he brings a lot of wasta to wherever he's at, and I really appreciate that. To my fellow group commanders, Lauren and Mick and Lovey and PH and JP, thank you. Thank you so much. I could not have done everything that I did. I could not have been successful without our partnership that we got together to get after the mission, and I really appreciate that. To all the commanders who are out there, John, Lauren, Solo, Glitch, Omara, Face, Peter, Ben, Waldo, Marvel, and Mark, Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you to my squadron commanders, my commanders. I get to sit up in an office. I get to send out PowerPoint briefings. I get to say something profound and prophetic maybe, or just ramble. But all my squadron commanders and detachment commanders are the ones out there who really get things done. And I really appreciate your support. To my front office staff, Alex, Joe, Bob, Cy, Gloria, Sylvia, Gallagher, Creek, Elena, Data, John, the 45 again, Jed, Marlena, Jeremy, and then my traveling buddy who's hopefully listening in online, Chief. But Chief, between you, me, and the shirt, we got a lot done. And we did a lot for a lot of airmen. And so I really appreciate that. So my journey here to the 318th COG was very interesting. So I'm up on the ACC staff, as you heard the boss mention. Lieutenant General Wegeman, one of my mentors, calls me in, says, Tom, congratulations. You've been selected to command the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group. I'm like, cool. Who are they? But that's kind of the story of the 318th group. And so I talked to the boss. He's like, well, they got the training squadron, and they got the tests, and they got the range. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but why are they all together? Why are they an organization? And General Wegeman's like, oh, don't worry, Tom, you'll get there and figure it out. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is interesting. And so I get into the unit and I start figuring out, yeah, it's an operations group, but I'm not conducting operations, right? And so people who know me, I like to tell stories. I'm very big on how do we articulate our mission and how we accomplish things. I don't want to be an operations group because I don't conduct operations. I want to be able to articulate how do we do things and support what we do. Okay, so what do we do? The other units out there conducting operations, they're going after missions. We're the support force. I'm like, it's cops, that's CE, that's not really it. So then we start talking through with our commanders about how we are an enabling force and a ready force to allow us to be able to present those combat operations and make those airmen who are conducting those operations more lethal and powerful. And so we put together how as an assembly line, as you kind of heard Colonel Kern, the boss there, mention about how all these units come together to help enable operations come through together. I said, all right, cool. I took that mentoring lesson. I understood how they went in. I brought the team internally to talk better to each other. We're all talking to each other. We're doing great. The Ukraine crisis kicks off. And then I have another one of my mentoring moments where I talked to Lauren. I don't know if you remember this, but we're sitting on the ops floor over in 2058, and she says, Tom, where the heck, you may have used a more choice word, where the heck is the range squadron? Where are they at? And I'm like, Rosie's right there. And I went, we've been a lot of talking internal. I need to get our airmen out. I need to push them out there. I need to get them out there more. And I really need to engage with our operators so that when we're out cyber slapping some people, I can say that in unclassified form, but when we're out cyber slapping some people, I need to have the developers sitting there right next to our operators. Our range needs to be right next to our testers need to be right there. And I was very, very specific. I said, I want to write names down. So if I'm the operator in this task force, they know this is the staff sergeant, this is the tech sergeant from the range squadron assigned to them. And this is the team working them. That was incredibly powerful and important to make sure that our operators knew who was there to help support and enable them. So then I had a third encounter with a leader that was incredibly good, because you always get feedback from various locations, right? And you're sitting there thinking, I'm pushing the airmen, you're getting out there, but this is staff sergeants meeting with staff sergeants, this is civilians meeting with other civilians. I'm like, boy, I hope I'm doing this right. I hope this is getting out there, I hope I'm making great fun. So then we're sitting in a money meeting, and we're talking about wing UFers, and what do we want to pay for, what are we going to get after? And then Colonel Waters, PH, hopefully she's able to listen online as well. So she talks about UFers, and she says, I don't want anything, but my number one requirement is for you to give money to the 318th so they can provide additional range capacity for me. I was like, ooh, we've been doing something good. We've been out there to a point that our airmen are embedded in those teams, and we have made sure that those operational commanders have a firm, solid grasp and understanding of our support, so now they're advocating for us. And so that's how I knew that I had a successful command tour, that I had pushed out and advocated those airmen to do those things. So over the time, we'll read off a certificate later on today. We'll talk a couple things. But some of the things that we delivered include producing over 4,000 students over the last 2 years. Those are professionals out there conducting the mission. We moved to a new facility downtown, allowed us to do capability development, allowed us to develop software tools in an unclassified facility, but it also freed up more space for our cyber operators who needed to be in those secure areas. And for the men and women of 318th Cyber Operations Group, take great heart and take great pride. Every single airman who is out there cyber slapping the bad guys was trained in our schoolhouse, is using our tools, practice on our ranges, using the tools that have been tested and proven through our test squadron, and have been rehearsed using our exercise teams. So we've very much been able to get after all this because of everything that 318th has done. With that, I'd like to really welcome T. So we've passed a couple times in the night, but we never really got to know each other. But over the last couple weeks, I've got a great chance to talk to you. And I'm very thrilled and excited for you to be here. The men and women of 318th are a fantastic team, and I know they will continue to serve well for you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Colonel Bodnar. At this time, the members of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group will render their final salute to their outgoing commander, Colonel Thomas T. Bodnar.
On behalf of the group, thank you for your leadership and inspiration. We wish you fair winds and following seas.
The ceremony you're about to witness is one of the briefest yet most significant of our military customs. All authority and responsibility are vested in the hands of the commander, in an unbroken chain to the Commander-in-Chief, President Biden. No unit may ever, even for a brief moment, be without a commander. So today, when Colonel Bodnar relinquishes command and Colonel N assumes command, all authority and responsibility for the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group transfers to her immediately. The passing of the group's flag culminates a series of significant achievements under Colonel Bodnar's leadership, vision, and guidance, and reflects great confidence in the continuance of those achievements under the command of Colonel N. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the official change of command. Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Headquarters, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Joint Base San Antonio-Lackland, Texas. Special Order number 2303, dated 2nd June 2023. By order of the Commander, Colonel Thomas T. Bodnar will relinquish command of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group to Colonel Tharommony T, Joint Base San Antonio-Lackland, Texas, effective 18 July 2023. Signed, Colonel Sean C.G. Kern, Commander, 67th Cyberspace Wing.
Sir, I relinquish command.
Sir, I assume command.
It is my pleasure to introduce the Commander, 318th Cyberspace Operations Group, Colonel Tharommony T.
Hey, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you. And I'll call out a couple of folks here shortly. But when I received the phone call from my commanding officer that I had been hired for this job, I kindly asked him to repeat it one more time for me. Because I'm a bit different in both my life prior to being commissioned and in my Air Force career as well, as a communications officer and as a cyber operations officer. I'd like to thank my family and my friends who have been the absolute game changer in my life. When I was younger, I always wondered why I wasn't the same and why I was different. But it was my family and close friends who had taught me that being different was something special, that it makes us better, that challenging the norm is really what allows us to grow and evolve. Colonel Kern, thank you for this huge opportunity and being a part of your wing. I look forward to joining your team. Colonel Bodnar, Tom, thank you for an incredible team that you are handing off. I know that the 318th had many accomplishments under your leadership. And to the men and women of the 318th, I know the unit's a bit different from the other 67th operations groups in the wing. And it's that distinction that makes us different. I look forward to being a part of an amazing and different organization. To close out, I'm reminded of a proverb. Together we're stronger, and alone we go fast, but together we go further. So let us be different, share our experiences, take some risk, and go far.
Thank you, Colonel In. At this time, the members of the 318th Cyberspace Operations Group will render their first salute to their new commander, Colonel Tharommony T. In.
Welcome to the 318th. We look forward to serving with you.
In keeping with Air Force tradition, we will conclude today's ceremony with the singing of the Air Force song. While it is customary for Air Force members to stand, we invite all of our guests to join us in standing for the Air Force song and the departure of the official party and distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please proceed through the receiving line to welcome Colonel Tharommony In and her family, and join us for a reception at the side of the club.